Hello, it's Jennifer. I hope you're doing well. Today I have a really fun technique for you. Now, stamp layering stamp sets are very popular right now, and I'm going to show you a way to get more from those types of stamps today. You'll see there are 6 cards here that we're going to create, but we create 2 at a time by using a second generation stamping. If you have never done second generation stamping, no worries. I'm going to show you how. It's very easy to do. So first we're going to start with these poppy cards. These stamps from Hero Arts are some of the most realistic stamps I've ever used. The stamp layering is gorgeous on them. Here's a look at the Hero Arts color layering poppy stamp set that I'll be using for this first example. It's so beautiful. Okay, so I'm starting out with 2 pieces of white cardstock, and they're cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. On the first piece, I will stamp the image. And then on the second piece, I will stamp the image again without re-inking my stamp. So this is a solid layer, the first layer of the flower, and I stamped it with pale tomato ink. Here I'm going to do it again with the smaller stamp. So I'm stamping it once and then stamping it again without re-inking it. So I'll end up with a vibrant card and a soft card. Now you can do second generation stamping with a lot of different dye or hybrid inks. Just try what you have. Just be sure to start with darker or medium colors because soft colors don't give second generations very well. This one happens to be the hybrid ink from Hero Arts called Crimson Bold, and that's what I'm going to use for the second layer on this smaller flower too. These colors are gorgeous. I will link to the colors I use below in case you want to find them. Now for the third layer, I'm using Hero Arts Shadow Ink in the red royal color. It's a nice dark red. You can see how beautiful the results are. Just try whatever inks you may have. Test them out and see how they do for second generation. Remember, the second generation is going to be super soft, so you want to start with the darker ink. For the middle of the flowers, I'm using Hero Arts Cup of Joe. You can see how light it is on that second generation, but it really works just fine. If you find there's an area where the second generation really didn't get dark enough, you can always add a little more shading with some colored pencils or add some more color with colored pencils. Okay, so now I'm going to do some buds and stems. For this, there's just one image, so I'm stamping it with Hero Arts Moss Hybrid Ink. So there's my second generation, worked great. Now to add a little more variation to this single layer, I'm going to just ink up the bottom part. I'm just kind of tilting my stamp as I ink it onto the pine ink. And then I'm stamping it directly on top again, and that gives us a little bit of variation. So I continue to do this for all the different stems and buds on the bottom of the card. Again, on the left is the first generation. The second is without re-inking for the second generation. So you can see the results. Such a fun technique, a great way to get 2 cards at once. Now it's time for the card bases. These are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding craft note cards that I created. I've put a stencil from Hero Arts over it, and I'm using the Cup of Joe Shadow Ink and my ink blending tool to apply ink onto this background, varying it. I don't want it to all be even amounts. I wanted like a variation in the background, and I did that for both cards. Stencils are great for backgrounds and are inexpensive. Now the sentiments I'm using is from this new Hero Arts Thank You Messages stamp set. There's such a great variety of styles and sentiments in this set. It's a good one to have. I'm stamping thank you very much on both of them with Versamark ink and adding gold embossing powder. This is the Hero Arts Gold. It's such a great rich gold color. I'm also going to use some of the other sentiments in that stamp set on the inside of my cards in a moment. So I glued a piece of craft foam on the back of each of these stamped panels, and then I'm gluing it onto my card. The reason I'm putting craft foam back behind that stamp panel is so that it's lifted up evenly and will go through the mail nicely. Now for some shimmer, I'm adding some Spectrum Noir shimmer pen in the clear to just the flowers and the stems, so it has a little bit of shine when you tilt it in the light. In real life, it's really quite beautiful. Decided not to add any more embellishments to these cards. I felt like simple was best, but I did heat emboss some sentiments on the inside. This one says, "For all your help" on the inside, and the envelope says, "Warmest thanks." This one says, "For your friendship" on the inside, and again, the envelope is the same. Those were all from the same thank you stamp set. I think it's fun to kind of combine the inside, outside, and envelopes together. Okay, so that's our first example for doing second generation stamp layering. And here's my next example, and this one I stepped it up and did some stenciling over top of one of them. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of white cardstock at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I will trim those down eventually. And I also have 2 pieces of scrap cardstock. They just happen to be orange here, so you can see them in the video, but they're cut to be slightly bigger than the white pieces. I also have the Hero Arts Stamp Layering Peacock stamp set. This is a beautiful one, and I have the coordinating dies for this technique also. So I'm going to do this process at the beginning with the die cutting and creating masks. It won't make much sense until later, but just stick with me. I am taping the Peacock coordinating die down onto the orange cardstock, just where I want it to end up stamped, and I'm holding the 2 pieces of orange cardstock together so I can quickly die cut the peacock from both of them. I'm not using these orange pieces on my card, so it doesn't matter how nice they are. They're just going to be masks for the technique that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out the centers and set them aside. I will need those pieces, so I put them in a bowl so I won't lose them. Okay, so now it's time to do our stamping. Now, I did this where I taped the masks to the front of my white cardstock because I thought I was going to do another technique, but I ended up not doing it. But you can still do this, and this is just going to be a guide for where to do my stamping. So I'm going to flip these over and stamp into those little orange mask openings. Okay, for the first layer, I'm going to use Hero Arts Shadow Ink in the cornflower color. This is a beautiful soft blue color, but not too soft, so I will be able to see the second generation stamping. So I'm kind of stamping right into the window there, so I know exactly where I want to stamp, and it'll be on the white cardstock piece where I want it. The second generation I'm doing in the hybrid deep ocean color. It's a nice blue. You'll see that I get my head in the way of the camera often so that I can make sure that I'm lining it up. I kind of look from the sides of the stamp and through the top. I just usually edit that out of the video so you don't look at the back of my head like you are now. But I wanted to show you that's necessary to really get great alignment with your stamping. So I did the beak with a charcoal dark gray color and did second generation. This is the Aegean color. It's a new bold ink color from Hero Arts, and that worked great for the tail on the peacock or the feathers on the peacock. For the second generation, I am again using the deep ocean blue. And you'll see that the first generation's nice and vibrant. The second generation is much softer. Now, you will feel like your second generation is super soft, but don't give up on it. When you add those darker layers, oftentimes it works out great. And I'll show you a trick if it doesn't in my next example. Now, this butter ink is pretty soft, so I am going to re-ink it for the second generation card. So sometimes just go ahead and re-ink it if you need the color to be a little more vibrant. So there we have one example. This one I'm going to leave simple, so I'm going to set it aside, but I'm going to do something fun to the vibrant example. So I'm going to take the orange peacock and just use some temporary adhesive and glue it right in place. So I'm masking off my bird now. So I can remove the outside mask, and now I can ink over this. And I know that that orange mask is positioned right on top of my stamping. It won't be off center, so it really is positioned well. Now I'm going to put a Hero Arts Peacock Feather stencil over it. And I'm going to ink over this, but I'm going to keep it kind of soft. So I'm using my Clarity stencil brushes. A stencil brush is a great way to add a softer amount of color, whereas I use the ink blending tool for more vibrant colors. So I'm going back and forth in both directions by inking up the stencil in between. And I always try to brush some of the color off onto scrap paper before bringing it to my paper, so I don't have any like harsh lines anywhere on my card. So I'm going back and forth in both directions, and I'm very light-handed for this because I want it to be soft. Now you can peel it up carefully and make sure you're happy with the direction you're going in, and lay it back down if you feel you need more color. So I was happy with the results, so I removed the stencil, and then I'm going to remove our little orange mask, and you'll see that our peacock was perfectly protected from the inking that we did on top, and there's a little white halo around it. Now I wanted to add a touch of soft yellow to that background. So you see that swirl stamp in this stamp set? I'm putting it onto my acrylic block upside down. So watch, when I stamp it, I get a teardrop shape. So I'm going to stamp it once onto scrap paper and then use the second generation of this to add touches of yellow into the openings of the feathers that I have on my inked background. This was just something I wanted to do to kind of add a little bit of color to the background. You could totally skip this, but remember, you can always use the back of stamps to get unique shapes. This was, again, a swirl shape. I also added little feet by using the charcoal ink, and I stamped the first generation and then the second generation. I like that this stamp set has so many little images that you put together to create something very realistic, but they also include other little images that you can use on your card. Okay, so now I'm going to add my sentiment. This is from that same stamp set, and I'm using my black Hero Arts dye ink, and I'm using the grid on my block to line up with the grid on my work surface to make sure I get it straight. Now I did trim that stamped piece down a little bit, and I'm gluing a piece of craft foam on the back of it so it has nice dimension when I put it through the mail. And then I'm going to glue it into the top corner of a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch soft pool colored note card that I created. Decided to keep that note card simple and soft because I have so much going on the stamped panel. Now it's time to add some sequins. I'm really liking these new Hero Arts ombre sequin packs. There are a ton of sequins in the pack, and there are a variety of sizes and kind of finishes to the color. So pretty. So I'm using some of the teal and some of the yellow sequins on the front of my card. I'm using this tool that has like a sticky tip to it to pick up the sequins and then put them down onto a drop of Ranger Multi-Medium. This is a matte finish adhesive that's super strong and will hold the sequins when this card goes through the mail. I'm also going to add some of my Spectrum Noir shimmer pen to the Peacock so it has some lovely shine. And then once that's dry, I'm going to add tiny little dots to the feathers with my white gel pen just to give it a little bit of interest. It really makes a big difference on these stamp layering images. So for the second generation card, I kept it simple. I didn't add anything but some sequins and a silver embossed sentiment. Okay, so next it's time for our last examples. This is the koi fish. I have a few tips along the way here, and I'm going to show you the colors that I used for these fish. For the first layer, I'm using soft vanilla. Now, since this is such a light ink, I will re-ink it before my second card. But for the other colors I put on top, I will use the second generation so that I can use a softer shade. So here I am stamping all 4 fish with the soft vanilla ink, inking it up each time since it's a light color. Now for the second layer, I'm using soft apricot. This is a gorgeous Hero Arts shadow ink. This will soften as it dries, but the second generation is just as beautiful as you can see here. So I did the same on the other fish. And then for the third layer, I'm using the Hero Arts Tangerine Hybrid ink. This is a nice, vibrant orange color. Okay, so now that we have our colors added to this, I'm using the black just for the little eyes and mouth, and I will ink this up before each of the stamping. I think with tiny little details like this, it's best not to do the second generation and keep your stamping nice and vivid. Now for the sentiment, I'm using this older goldfish stamp set from Hero Arts. It's a sentiment that says just keep swimming, and I'll stamp that with black ink. Now my softer second generation was a little too soft in some areas since I used lighter color inks. So all I did is I took an orange colored pencil and just kind of went along the outlines and along some of the lines in the stamping pattern just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. And it is amazing the difference this makes. I'm not an artist, but just by following the lines on the stamped image and softly adding those little lines with the colored pencil, you can really make it pop. I took the little bubble image and I stamped it several times on each of the pieces with soft pool ink. When this dried, it was a little too light, and I'll show you in a few minutes what I did to make it pop. Okay, now it's time for the cards themselves. These are top folding 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch soft pool colored note cards that I created. This is a wave stencil from Hero Arts, and I'm going to ink around the edges because I don't use the center. I'm going to cover that up with my stamped piece, and I'm using soft pool ink and an ink blending tool. And I'm making sure my color's uneven just so that it has some variation to it. Now I'm going to take the stencil and shift it up a little bit in ink again so I create this really fun pattern on the background. Stencils really are great for backgrounds because they are inexpensive, and you can do fun techniques like this where you shift it to get a new look. Now for the first generation card, I did a very vibrant coloring. For the second generation, I did some softer inking on this card that you see here. So I did glue those panels. I trimmed them down and glued them with some craft foam to the note cards. And now I'm going in with Tonic Jewel Drops. These are clear with a touch of blue tint to them. And then while they're wet, I'm going to kind of sprinkle on some Tonic Clear glitter just for some interest. So I put those drops into the bubbles that I stamped. So it's got that little blue tint to it and some shimmer on it because I'm putting the glitter on top. When this dries, the glitter will be trapped on top of the drops, and it really makes for an interesting little accents. So there you have the final versions there. First generation on the left, second generation on the right. I hope you'll give this technique a try. It works great with regular stamps also. Now, I am going to link the products I used in my YouTube description below. Keep in mind, a lot of these products have been in high demand and are sold out in many places, but Hero Arts just added them to their shop today, so there should be some in stock. Now, you can head over to my blog for much more information and photos, and a giveaway. In the middle are 2 other videos that might be of interest to you. I appreciate you stopping by, and I hope you get some time to stamp today.